This is the Core Axe Warrior. It's a pretty standard build, and it's very easy to play, very simple to play, but a lot of fun to play. And the reason why this build would be played instead of the Strength Spellbreaker, which is a very similar build. The Strength Spellbreaker is the one with the dagger instead of the axe. You'd play that because it's a little bit better when you're outnumbered, and it has a little bit more selfishness. So Strength Spellbreaker is better for like solo roaming, but the Axe Core Warrior has a lot more group support and can do way more damage when it has support from its team as well. So let's just get straight into the traits. I take Strength, Discipline, and Tactics. In Strength you have, so there's going to be a theme here of giving yourself might. So whenever you dodge, you have an unblockable attack that gives might per hit. You have Peak Performance, which gives all of your physical skills a buff of Peak Performance, which is 7% damage, and then you just have a 3% passive damage. So a lot of the time you're going to get this 7% damage modifier, and your physical skills will also have Reduced Recharge, which makes your Mending heal skill a 16-second cooldown, which is very strong because it removes 5 conditions and heals for 7k. So it gives you a lot of sustain, but it does have a cast time, so you have to cover that. So you also have burst skills, which will give you endurance on hit. So endurance is going to give you dodges, dodges are going to give you might, and might is going to give you healing and endurance gain. So you have this like feedback loop of dodging giving you might and might giving you dodges. So this build really thrives on being in fights and gains its sustain from hitting things, as well as from using mending very often, and from the For Great Justice shout. You also have Forceful Greatsword, which will give you a lot of power and might whenever you crit. It gives you a 50% chance to gain those might stacks whenever you're an axe, but 100% chance on crit when you're in Greatsword. And it'll also reduce the recharge of your Greatsword skills. It's just a mandatory trait on any build that takes Greatsword. You'll also gain more power for each might stack you have. So when you're at high might stacks, which you often do because of For Great Justice and just all of the other ways to gain might, you do a lot more damage. You can get up to like 4,000 power sometimes. So in Discipline, you have Fast Hands and Versatile Rage, which is just really important for any kind of like warrior build, because it allows you to not only have whatever weapon skill you want whenever you want, but to also, in situations where you're not necessarily hitting the target, to have Adrenaline. So you also take Warrior Sprint, which is going to give you a 3% damage increase when you have Swiftness. You do not really get Swiftness on you from this build, but you can get it from others. But you mostly want it for the 25% movement speed increase, which means that you don't need to take Swiftness at all. And you'll also remove Immobilize on any of your leap skills. So a leap skill is Bull's Charge, there is the Rampage 5 and 3, there is the Shield 4, and then there's the Greatsword 3 and the Greatsword 5. So you have a lot of ways to remove Immobilize, which kind of makes you immune to Immobilize. Then you have Brawler's Recovery. You cleanse a condition whenever you swap weapons, pretty mandatory. I would say that Destruction of the Empowered can be better if you have support from your team and you don't have to worry about Condi Cleanse, but if you're solo roaming, you definitely are going to want to have the Brawler's Recovery. Versatile Power is going to give you might when you weapon swap, which is going to give you all of that synergy from might, and it's going to reduce the recharge of your burst skills, which is not that important, but it can be nice. Then you have Axe Mastery. So this gives you 120 ferocity, and then another 120 ferocity for wielding one axe. Obviously, going axe can be fun because you get that third set of ferocity, but shield sets up damage and is a lot more reliable, let's be honest. So you're going to gain a lot of ferocity still from wielding one axe, and you also gain more adrenaline when you crit. Then in Tactics, you have a little bit more might when you land burst skills. You have Leg Specialist, which is really good. You deal 7% more damage to immobilized, chilled, or crippled targets, which is just more modifiers. So you've got the peak performance, you've got warrior sprint if you have swiftness, and you've got the leg specialist, which are going to just give you a lot of damage if you've got that all stacking up. And it's very easy to get cripple on the target because your throw axe will give cripple and your Greatsword 4 will also give cripple, so it's very easy to get that. And when you do so, every 12 seconds will give a single second of immobilize, which can help you to land your burst combos, because they may be looking to dodge your shield bash, but they may not be looking to dodge your axe throw. And if you hit them with the axe throw, which will cripple and then immobilize them, you can immediately go in with a shield bash, and then they can't dodge while they're immobilized, and then they get shield bash, now they're stunned, and it just escalates from there. Then you have empowered, deal 1% more damage for every boon on you. That's just going to make you much more dangerous when you're in a group because they're going to give you boons, but you really only get like 3 boons or so from this build, so it's not that good. Then you have Shake It Off or Shrug It Off, which is just a 20-second cooldown passive heal that cleanses one condition. It's not amazing, but sometimes it can do a lot of work because there's a stun break on it. And basically what happens is whenever you get one condition on you, it will cleanse that condition and heal you for a little bit because of the shout synergy. And in other words, like if you get hit with an attack that's a CC that also puts a condition on you, then you'll basically stun break that attack. It's kind of nice because this build only has one stun break on it, so when you're just avoiding random CCs here and there from this trait, it can be really nice. Then you have Mending Might. This trait is actually super good with the strength trait line because you already have a lot of healing from gaining might, so you kind of have another, it's not double the healing, but it's a lot of healing that you get. So every might stack you get, or give out rather, you'll give 53 healing to yourself. Now the strength trait line is whenever you apply might to yourself, so it's a little bit more selfish, but you can give might to allies with your For Great Justice, so, and of course marching orders, so it can give you quite a bit of healing. So for example, if you use For Great Justice, you give out 12 might to 5 allies. So if we're gonna say that each stack of might you give yourself is 140 times 12, and then the 12 multiply that by 4 more, and then multiply that by 50, do some math, it's a lot of healing, plus Vigorous Shouts, which will give you an extra 1000-ish healing to you and nearby allies that are affected by your shouts. So it's a lot of sustain on this build. You can be really squishy because this is like a Berserker build, but it's never like a situation where it's like you die to being out sustained. It's more like you die to being bursted down or locked down. And then the Vigorous Shouts will also give you healing power based on a percentage of your power, which isn't amazing because even though you do have a lot of power, the healing power doesn't really scale well with anything except your shout heals. So all this other like might and stuff like that synergy doesn't really heal that much more because of that. And it'll reduce the recharge of your shouts, which you only have Shake It Off and For Great Justice. But because Shake It Off is such a long cooldown, it is really nice to have that. The equipment I take is full Berserker everything, but take Rune of the Brawler for a little bit of toughness and to gain might whenever you use your heal skill. And since your heal is a very low cooldown, you get quite a lot of might from that, which gives you a lot of synergy because it gives you damage and sustain, and it just kind of rounds out the build a little bit better. If you really want, you can go a little bit of Knights to go for more survivability because you can be very squishy with full Zerk, but it's meant to be in like a group where you got support, and that allows you to just go purely ham and do max damage. So just adapt to whatever situation you want to be in. And then for the weapons, I take on the Axe Shield. I have Cleansing Celerity because the cleansing is really important to have in the rotation. And just in general, swap sigils give you a lot of value on Warrior because the cooldown is 9 seconds, and warriors have a 5-second weapon swap because of fast hands, so you can generally get that off cooldown, whereas with other classes they have a 9-second weapon swap, so you get it every 18 seconds, whereas with warriors you get it right on that cooldown. And then on the Greatsword I take Hydromancy Battle. Hydromancy is really good for sticking to targets and doing a lot of damage in your burst combos, because usually you start out with your axe, right? You land your shield bash, and then that gives you celerity because you gain quickness whenever you disable foe. And then from there you do your axe burst, and then you swap into your Greatsword, and that'll do a Hydromancy burst, and then you do your Greatsword burst, and that all fits within like a quickness of 5 seconds window. You've also got the Battle, which will give you 5 stacks of might for 12 seconds when you swap to the weapon, which, just like the Brawler, it'll give you quite a bit of synergy with the sustain and damage. So I just like it for that. The food I would use is the bowl of Orrian truffle and meat stew. That just gives you more dodges because this build doesn't really have vigor on it. And yeah, you do get a lot of dodge back from just gaining might, but it's not like there's some anti-synergistic effect between the might from Might Makes Right and the dodge food, whereas vigor doesn't necessarily stack well with this food buff, so it's just kind of nice to have it. And you'll gain might whenever you dodge, which is going to give you more dodges, right? So it's like that whole might engine that we talked about earlier. The skills are very simple, so let's just go over them really quick. The axe burst skill is kind of a clunky leap skill. It's eviscerate. You'll do more damage the more adrenaline you have, and you gain adrenaline quite fast with your axe auto attack. The axe auto attack has a very long chain to it, but if you can land the final hit, it's that one right there. If it crits, it'll do quite a bit of damage. It's like a triple chop. It didn't crit any times there because I didn't have Fury, but it's really good at gaining adrenaline because the attacks are very quick and they give you extra adrenaline because of Axe Mastery. Cyclone Axe and Throw Axe are surprisingly hard hitting because they have really fast animations. So on Axe Warrior, you have like these very quick bursts that if you get in range of someone, they often can't react to that attack quickly enough. So Cyclone Axe is just this like quick whirl, and then you go straight into doing your next attack, and it'll give Fury and a little bit of vulnerability. So it's nice to do that as soon as you get in melee range. It's kind of AoE, so you can use it pretty much around you. And then Throw Axe is a pretty decently long range. It's 900 range, but it's kind of hard to land at that range. But what it'll do is it'll cripple, which can give Immobilize, so it can often be used to set up your combos, and it also does more damage the lower health the target is. So it'll do double damage if they're below 25% HP. Okay, if you look here, so for Great Justice, my Throw Axe can crit for 5k. So that's pretty insane, and it's such a low cooldown. It's 9-second count recharge. Then you have Shield Bash. This is just a nice 2-second stun on a single target. It's often your combo enabler for you to land this because it allows you to transition into your Greatsword and then just land everything. Then you got Shield Stance, just a 3-second block. Very nice because it gives you a defense on this weapon set, whereas you have evades on your Greatsword. Then the Greatsword, you have your auto attacking Greatsword is not really that good. It's kind of slow, doesn't really do much. But 100 Blades is very nice for using on like down bodies or enemies that you've got stunned, because it basically roots you in place, but it does a lot of damage over time. You have Whirlwind Attack, which is a very good evade plus damage. You usually like to use this at the end of your damage combos because it repositions you. And then Blade Trail is a very good attack because you throw it out and then it comes back to you. And if you position it right, it can hit twice on the same target, and that can do quite a bit of damage and will cripple. Usually though, you want to be de-targeting, so one thing that's really important is when you left click, right, if you're targeting someone, you left click, you can de-target and use this to kite very well. So usually what I'll do is, like, say I'm kiting someone, I'll be running away from them, I'll de-target, start casting Blade Trail, and then turn around right as the Blade Trail is about to be cast. and that way you can still be kiting, but you can cripple enemies behind you. So it's really important to learn detargeting on this warrior. Pretty much any warrior, to be honest. Especially with Rush, which is a very long range kind of like, it's not a leap skill, but it's a movement skill that puts you very far, and it'll do a really strong attack at the end. So if you have retargeting enabled, allow skill retargeting, you can use your Rush, and this tree is not a really good example, but say I want to use Rush right now, but there's a tree in the way of this target. I can use Rush and then retarget, and then it'll hit the target. And instead of me just rushing straight into the tree, I'll go around the tree and then go for the attack on the tower guard. And you can use that to change direction as well if you want to kite. For example, like you can rush away and then rush back in and do the attack. So the basic combo that you'll do usually to open a fight is you'll throw axe, and from there you'll have cripple and immobilize, which will give you the damage bonus from leg specialist, and then you can immediately bull's charge as soon as your throw axe is in the air, and if they don't dodge your throw axe, they'll be immobilized and can't dodge the 3-second knockdown that they'll get hit by. You can for great justice, and that'll give you a lot of might and fury. Then you can go straight into the damage with Cyclone Axe, and then swap to Greatsword, which will give you the Hydromancy proc. And you can use Arcing Slice, because you'll have at least 1 bar of adrenaline by then. But if they aren't below 50% HP, you want to use 100 Blades instead while they're stunned. And then once they get below 50%, you want to use Arcing Slice, because that does more damage when they're below 50%. So it look like this. 50%, and it crits, and then at the end you can do a whirlwind attack just to get a little bit more burst to finish them off. So this is going to be a 1v1 against a Core Guardian. It's a pretty ancient matchup here, and I would say that the Core Guardian has the advantage because Core Warrior has these very singular attacks like Shield Bash, Greatsword F1, and stuff like that can just be blinded or blocked with Aegis, which they can use instantly to basically their F1 and their F3 are instant cast, so they can try to like trade damage with me and then see what kind of attack I'm going to use. And since Warrior has these very predictable linear attacks, they can time their Aegis and blinds to basically get damage on me and then prevent me from landing the skill that I'm going to use. So it is definitely a hard matchup for Warriors. I would say that Spellbreaker is kind of like the opposite. Spellbreaker is just way too strong with full counter against a Guardian, but since this is more of like a DPS build, I would say that the 1v1 matchup can be a little bit more even. So this is a very good instance of like a small scale fight because this build has really good sustain, and I don't really outplay the Warrior here so much as I out sustain them, or sorry, the Guardian. All I do really is try to survive, not trade with them when I know that there's potential that they can do a lot of damage, because if they do a lot of damage and I don't get off my damage because they can use that trick where they blind me or Aegis me, then I'll just take a lot of damage for free. So I generally don't try to trade with them at all. I try to only avoid their damage and then get in hits here and there. So I land a really good Arcing Slice right there, and that means I'm kind of ahead here in my opinion right now. So yeah, they do their Greatsword burst though, and as you can see I am trying to avoid it. My shield block has just been used, so I am kind of low on cooldowns to avoid their burst. I do use the dodge on their Judge's Intervention there. I get a really good Bull's Charge there into 100 Blades. They take a lot of damage, but they have protection from, oh yeah, I get hit by the Greatsword 3 there, which is really bad. So I'm pretty far behind at this moment because I just used my heal and I'm still not even close to high health. They avoided my Eviscerate there, as you can see, with the Aegis, and they're forced into the Elite, but I am playing very aggressively at this point, and yeah, they stand right out of range of my Bull's Charge there very well. I did a little bit of a about face blade trail there, but didn't really need to do that. And here I dodge their Greatsword pull, so I know I can play a little bit aggressively. I get blinded on my rush, and yeah, I land some pretty good damage here, so I'm doing pretty good. They're low on sustain at this point, so I am trying to finish them off. I landed a really good Greatsword F1, and yeah, do a lot of damage. As soon as I land that Bull's Charge, they can't really handle it, and at this point they're really low on sustain, and I just need to prevent them from healing by, whenever they use their heal skill, just don't trade damage with them, and they won't heal up, so yeah. This next one is going to be a situation where I'm killing a sentry, and the sentry is a pretty easy kill for me because I just do so much damage and they just stand still. So I kill that with like a 6k Axe 3, and now I'm in a 1v2 versus a Scrapper and a Condi Revenant. So I have to be very careful here. I try to survive, but I notice that the Scrapper starts running away, so I jump on the Condi Rev and do a lot of damage to them. Thing is, like, Condi Revs don't have a lot of CC removal, so even though they're one of the tankiest roaming classes, you can just almost one-shot them if they don't have the stun break, if you time it right. So here I am playing very safely, and I land my, yeah, right there, I land a huge burst on the Revenant, and that gets him down. I use a little bit of my positioning to survive because I know that the Scrapper is going to do damage and my heal gets interrupted, so I want to make sure that that gets off mostly so that I can survive, because I know that I have plenty of damage. I land a really good Axe 3 and that gets down the Scrapper. So now I've got a double kill here, and from this point I'm going to have two other enemies come in. I poke them a little bit with my Axe throw, and because I'm a little bit low on cooldowns, I immediately rampage because I don't want to take any chances here, and I land an insane Axe combo into the end of my rampage there, which allows me to get the kill immediately. I double dodge in all these traps, and I use my heal skill, and I have to play safe because they just use a lot of their damage there, but I know that I can get the kill here on both of them, so I go aggressive. And yeah, I'm just healing off of doing damage there, and I get 2 downs. So that's 4 kills in this fight. And then eventually I get ganked by some of the green team. But that is a pretty good showing of the amount of damage that you can do on this build. It's just insane damage. You want to just be aggressive and then resustain and go in for those like stun lock burst combos. But yeah. If you like this kind of content, then give it a like and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.